back. Welcome back. I'm going to do a follow up to the episode or the talk discussion about young lovers. Basically, um, I got some nice feedback about it. I'm going to pull up the messages and try to talk through them. But, everybody has a different view, of what what works, what doesn't work, for what reason, and why not. And so I'm going to just read through one of my friend's messages. She was really took some really interesting insight and responses to what I was saying. And just let me get this pulled up here. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So my friend MJ, been friends since probably let's say Florida days, and I was in Florida in 2013 and 2014, so looking like over a decade now. She's down in the southern U.S. areas as well, still. But yeah, she had heard my message about the younger lovers, and she had some nice comments to send back to me with I wouldn't say 100% like everything is on board or whatever, but she had some nice feedback. So I want to read through her comments, and then I would like to kind of respond to that because I think she takes an interesting point. Let me just get started here, with the traditional proper lighting of a cigar in case you haven't seen it or heard it before, and then we'll get this thing going. So. All right. Here's what we got from MJ. Her first comment was brain development 100% matters. She says, a hill that I will absolutely die on is that adulthood shouldn't even be considered adulthood until we pass mid 20s. When you think about it from a legal point of view, right? Check this out. You can't legally rent a car in your own name without a cosigner until the age of 26. Legally, you can remain on your parents' insurance until the age of 26 or until you complete college. Someone finishing a doctorate program would be in their 30s still in school. And that's if they do everything the right way on the first try, which is extremely rare. Your credit report is determined by both credit history on time of payments and derogatory marks and the age of your open accounts. You can have an 800 credit score with no age accounts and be approved for absolutely nothing because you don't have, you don't have any open accounts because you're only 21 or 22. Legally, you're not an adult until you're in your mid 20s. Brain development, neurology, brain development and neurological state, neurology, sorry, brain development and neurology state, you're not an adult or mature until mid late 30s. I call 18 to 26 adolescent adulthood. It's the ages where you discover things. You're learning. You're a baby adult. It takes 5+ years to learn a new language. I don't know why we expect ourselves to learn sufficient in less than, to learn self-sufficiency in less than 5. From birth to late toddler years, you're barely cognitive. From toddler to preteen, nothing is logical yet. From preteen to 19, everything is driven by hormones. And by the time you're 20 to 30, life is rocking. Life is royally kicking your ass. And to most people, by the age of 30, you have lost at least one parent, grandparent, or leader in their life. And they're just raw dogging it, trying to figure out without a lick of guidance. There's a huge difference between a 25-year-old plus male dating an 18 plus female from a 35-year plus male dating a 28 plus female. Like the older we are, the less of a difference the age gap makes. From 18 to 25 is the same age gap as 25 to 30, 28 to 35, but two houses at extremely different circumstances in life. But also, where you are in the world makes a huge difference, because if you're dating to marry or dating to commit over 30, pregnancy is considered geriatric. Science has increased our expected lifespan, and capitalism has created a fear about birth rates. That doesn't change the woman's biological clock. So we got low birth rates, immature parents, and old gents that are living much longer, contributing to population on the back end. It's extremely complex. I'm gonna stop there for a minute. That was a lot, and it's been kicking my butt trying to read this. I thought I could see this more clearly, but either way, I'm gonna root my cigar. Jeez. Okay, so being considered adult shouldn't even be considered until mid-20s is kind of interesting. Um, for men, obviously from the age of 18, we're considered an adult that can go to war and die for our country, but we aren't allowed to buy alcohol or rent cars, apparently. Um, Adulthood is determined by society, right? So as a society, we decide a woman is an adult at this age, a man is an adult at sort of the same age, but not really, right? Again, the example of a quinceañera is the becoming of a woman, becoming of marrying age, of childbearing age. I do believe that something about starting your period is a biological clock that starts the ability to have a reproductive cycle and everything else like that. I know in our society, obviously, dating or sleeping with people who are just starting their period is reserved for West Virginia folks who are also super, I don't know, like this is not something that normal, like non-backwoodsy people do, you know what I'm saying? So the thought of it is like, we're forever going to see women as young and innocent as long as we can. And they help us by continuing to present themselves as young and innocent. But for men, they're always going to be the aggressor, the predator, the guilty one in any conflict until otherwise proven. And it still tarnishes their records. So when you look at that, a responsible adult, I've talked to people who had to grow up really fast and they were adults taking care of kids basically by the age of 16. And I've talked to people who never moved out of their grandparents' house, and they're as old as me and, just whatever, it's everything in between. Responsible as you should be and responsible as you are two different things. In that situation, we have to rely on the law of the land the society chose, okay? So despite the fact that you are not capable of understanding things about life at the age of 23, but you do have the adult tag, is irrelevant. That's where society is chosen. Age 18, you are a young lady. Age 21, you are a full-grown woman. If you haven't figured it out, you haven't figured it out. I think our parents, by the time they were 21, had stuff figured out. And it's probably where those laws come from when you think about it. A man could drop out of high school, get into a factory, and support a wife and two kids back in the day, versus now, kids are not even trying to get driver's licenses by the time they're 18. So what do you blame that on besides social media and the internet? But this society that we built. Now, again, as it comes to it, being a responsible adult or not is kind of just depending on who's looking at it. The same 23-year-old, or say a 26-year-old woman dating a 38-year-old man, she's a child still, right? But the same 26-year-old woman, if you look in the news, when those teachers sleep with those students, the boy students and the female teacher, and she's like some young 20-year-old teacher, she's fully an adult now, right? That whole definition changes with the perception of the situation. So it's always going to change no matter who's looking at it. Now, for me, in this case specifically, when I was in high school, I wished there were some teachers that were, willing to come teach me a lesson after school. I wouldn't have been a snitch. But this day and age, it's been like everywhere you look on the news is happening. I think social media has something to do with it. It's probably was happening back then as well, but we didn't know because we didn't have cell phones and TikTok, and we didn't have geotagging on pictures and location and all that. It was before everything was different back then. But nowadays, I was looking at some crime channel, and there was like 4 or 5 new cases of female teachers sleeping with their students. And these kids, it wasn't like one time, it was like 50 times. So you know what you're doing, young man. I knew what I was doing when I started having sex, and I started having sex when I was 14. I didn't know what I was doing, like I didn't have the skills, but I knew what sex was. I knew I wanted it, and so that's what it was. Now you flip that role again, and if it's a male teacher and a young girl, absolutely shoot him. There's really no question about that. As I like to say, I don't prescribe the same thing for men and women. Okay, so a male predator of the innocent should die. A female, hard to see her as a predator when she's teaching this boy life's lessons. And he's only a victim because his mom says he's a victim. And his dad has to agree with his mom. But in real life, most dudes are like, hey man, sometimes you get lucky. And that's where we leave it at. It's not predatorial, it's just sex in that case. But when it's an older male, then yeah, now it's predatorial. Now you jump ahead to the idea of a 20, 21-year-old woman and a 40 to 50-year-old male, and you make him look like a predator if you want to, because he's figured out what he wants in life, and he figures out that he needs a woman that only brings these dynamics and not those dynamics, with no baggage, with a maximum potential for bringing in, bearing healthy children. And so specifically, he's going for that prime, and people will see him as a predator only because, and I believe it comes from a place of like maybe jealousy, or I don't know. Because as a dude, if I know a dude and his wife is 20 years or 30 years younger than him, I don't know, 30 years, but whatever, I'm not going to see him as a predator. You found somebody you want to marry, she wanted to marry you. But women will call him a predator for sure. And of course, women have a different experience with older men, because from the time you start to hit puberty until today, many women are hit on more than 100 times a week. Okay, walking down the street, going to school, getting on a bus, getting in a taxi, going to the mall, going to the movies. Everywhere you go, going out to dinner, you're getting hit on all the time. Now, the younger guys may try to say something, but they're young and dumb, and it's kind of like you just know it's a boy. But when you're a young lady and an older man tries to proposition you or whatever, that's probably pretty creepy. And he's probably pretty persistent if he's that ballsy enough anyway. And I can see where you would see worst case scenario in these situations. And so when you hear these stories and these ideals, obviously, with your protective mechanism, you have to hear from a worst case scenario. And when I think about guys, and as hard as it is for men, I don't make any excuses. But when I'm talking about the situation, I'm considering best case scenario, like what it should be, not what it is, and what it could be, not what it couldn't be. And so there's all different ways to look at it. I think most women learn to fear men and look at them predatorily naturally as they come up in the ranks and become noticed by men. They learn to shut it down and learn how to say no. They learn how to protect themselves from men, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, those men, I can't blame it on, I can't pinpoint it, but I know that a lot of men don't take no for an answer, you know. If I were to look into that, part of that reason is because these men who don't take no for an answer feel like they deserve something. And my motto is men don't deserve things, we can earn things. Okay, so if I'm an older man and I want to meet a younger lady, uh, I don't know when or how or where I want to do that, but if I did, I would want to meet her in a way that she thought I was interesting, not rather than just in a way of me saying, hey, I can take care of you. I can give you the things you want. Like, that's selling something to me. And so I don't know. It's just not my thing per se, but I think it's the same as with any woman. I don't want to lead with my wallet. Obviously, I have gray in my beard, so I must be at least in my 30s. Most people think I'm in my mid 30s right now, which is cool, but I'm 40. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But when I see it, I consider men, I know that not all men are good men. I know that most men aren't good men. That's how it works. That's the best dynamic for us men because we need to be able to differentiate. I think the key in this whole equation is learning how to take the knowledge we have about men and instill it in our young girls so that you're not drunk walking home in little to nothing in a dangerous place and wondering why this guy keeps talking to you. You shouldn't hang out in areas where lions hang out. You shouldn't desire that. I just watched a documentary about Dubai and prostitution, and it was crazy. And it's just like, I asked my friend, I said, why do women from Uganda want to leave Uganda so bad? And he said, it's to support their families. I said, that can't be the whole truth of it. It's a honest and modest attempt or, a righteous attempt to say, yeah, I'm gonna do this for my mother. But when you get to Dubai and you're in a club till 3 a.m, that's got nothing to do with your mother or your niece or your daughter or whatever, right? So to some point, they desire the lights and the luxury and the glam. But that all is man-made and it all comes with man's attention. If we could teach our girls to not desire the city life, they wouldn't be so exposed to it. They wouldn't be so trapped by it. And once you get in a situation where you thought it was just gonna be a fun night at the club like you saw in Sex and the City, and then it turns out that somebody's drugged somebody or you've been kidnapped or whatever, you should never been in that situation. You shouldn't desire that lifestyle. When ultimately what you want is to find love and to settle down and have kids, you're not gonna find that in the club. So why even go there? Why even desire that is where I'm at with it. That's what we need to be understanding about what we teach young ladies. Now, the ladies that crave that and want that, I'm not saying don't let them have it. Absolutely, because those are the type of women that kind of give us men experience through life. But those who want to be a wife, who truly want a kid, a husband, a dog, and a house, and a quiet life, you should never even go down that road because sometimes you take a turn and you can't come back from it. Here we go here, picking up here. She says she's 6 minutes into the video and that's what she came with. So she says here, younger women date older men for a plethora of reasons. We observe our partners. So we're getting guidance, protection. We can learn from those partners. They can teach it. They come to teach us to be what we need to, what they need us to be. Manipulation 100% is necessary in dating, marriage, and commitment, etc. I agree with that, right? So the thing about dating a man versus a boy is a man can communicate what he needs or feels better. and more clearly. And women being, heavy on communication have a better chance of figuring it out, you know. Now, as much as women love communication, I've yet to really walk to some woman who just like absolutely masters communication between the sexes. Women talk, but they talk about different stuff. Men talk kind of more direct, and it's like, let's not waste a lot of words. I was listening to somebody say, it's not the first time I heard it. Women, baby girls learn how to talk faster than baby boys. And over the course of their life, they'll say 2 times or 4 times many words as a man will. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because we don't really talk like that. We just communicate in other ways. So, yeah, that's true. As a partner in a relationship, whether I'm younger or older, because most women I deal with are older than me, actually, I'm the leader. Okay, so it has nothing to do with necessarily who's older or who's younger, but as the leader of the relationship, I'm responsible for the relationship. And so, with that responsibility, let me catch it here. I have to teach and lead, even from a junior age. I start to be able to tell a woman what I need her to know. I need to be able to decipher what she's saying to me, and then turn it into a forward plan, And I don't have all the answers. I say that all the time. I say, I only have this vantage point, and from here, what I think we should do is that. And when we get to that point, or somewhere between here and there, I'll have a new vantage point. It might change, okay? So, yes. And then, absolutely, 100%, I'm manipulating women to be close to me, just like women are manipulating men to provide for them by means of the opposite, right? Women think men are shallow because we put sex and closeness so high up on the list. And men think women are shallow because they put money and protection so high up on the list, right? But the truth is, it's not shallow. It's just a different point of view, right? If a woman comes up to me talking about money right away, I'm not listening to her. Just the same way as if I come up to a woman talking about sex right away, she probably is not listening to me. You have to manipulate it into your message through means of other ways, right? You can't just say it all up front, but we know what we're both here for. Women think men are here for love, and we're not. Women just can't comprehend that. They think a good man loves the way a woman loves. We don't, because women love part-time and men have to love full-time. So, yeah, she said here, we don't call him daddy for no reason. He takes the place of the father, correct. He teaches you, correct. He guides you, he protects you, he provides for you. Those are things your dad used to do and that you should do. So when seeking a partner, we look for dads or lack of our dads that to fill that space, right? And that's absolutely the understanding of the father giving away the bride to a man that can take his place in her life. That's a relationship. Obviously, it's not marriage yet, but why would you marry somebody who doesn't have signs of being a husband? Why would you date somebody who doesn't have the signs of being a husband? That's the crazy part. Women will date a dude knowing that he's got nothing to do with what she wants in the future. And then thus her short game is obviously to extract something from her, be it resources or good dick or whatever, but not knowing that she is building traumas that will inevitably affect really her ability to relate to the one man that she wants in her life. And then when she does meet him, hopefully her walls aren't so high that he can't get through. I just watched an interview with an older lady in her 50s that looked good. She looked like she was 38 or 40. And she was saying how hard dating is now, and how now what she has to look for is basically like divorced guys who have figured it out and are trying to kind of move on in their life. But that's kind of crazy because now a divorced dude trying to deal with you and you set in your ways and you're 50, it's like he's still going to not get through your walls and you're sure that you're not doing anything wrong. And so who's going to change for who? Or how are you going to get him to commit to you if you're at an age where you can't change, And you will have to change when you find the man that you want to marry you, okay? She says, as young ladies, we get the drug dealers for free weed and pills. We get the mechanics to fix our cars. We get the plumbers to fix everything. You better be handy if you want to be a husband. You got to own a leaf blower and a hammer at minimum. This is how deep it is, right? And so that's exactly what it is, right? So women can have a choice of any man they want, a desire of what is their top priority in a partner. And at a young age, yeah, I just want to have fun is the top priority. Who has fun? The guy who's always got connection to the club and got the good weed. It is what it is, you know. But again, if your ultimate goal is to be a wife with kids in a house, we should teach our daughters not to spend time focusing on weed man or this dude or that. You know, focus on being permeable, being malleable to a partner, and then focus on how to understand the characteristic traits of the man that you want to meet and marry. You know what I'm saying? She said, clapping on each one of these, we got to teach our children how to pick a partner. Amen. Especially the girls. So the problem with women in choosing partners is they typically say too much up front. And since they lead the conversation with all this stuff, the guy just has to nod his head and say yes. He doesn't actually have to possess those things. And for as complex as women are, and as vastly different as each woman is from each other, they kind of typically want the same four things in general, and then they want them to be expressed differently. So it's not like it's a hard test to pass if you're a guy out trying to pick up girls. You know the right things to say. Yes, I hold doors. Yes, I'm generous. Yes, I'm a provider. Yes, I'm a protector. Cool. Next question. And there's nowhere to really show it in a first world country. So you take her out on dates, you treat her right, you're courteous, you know. But dudes who say stuff like that on the first date, like I think it's so weird when guys come out on a date and they're holding doors and stuff and they're saying yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, but they don't actually use it in real life. So then 3 dates in, now they're just a real dude just in basketball shorts and they don't really hold doors or nothing. And it's like, it's not even genuine. It was just an act. As a first date, this is what I'm supposed to do, but it ain't who I'm really is, type of thing, you know. And it annoys me. It very much annoys me. Either way, she says here, I personally only attempted to date younger than me once, and it was a disaster and absolutely ended over immaturity. Factuals. Women have a hard time dating people who act like sons if they want an actual outcome of family, because you don't want to raise a man, you want to find a man, you know. And we don't have to really beat that one to death, but I truly believe that as boys, you need to grow up faster. You need to take on responsibilities faster, and you need to figure some stuff out. Yeah. So here we go, continuing on. We as women absolutely see the end of a relationship or even a friendship and even under family ties as wasted time, right? It's one of the statements I said. So broken relationships to women are wasted time. Broken relationships to men are experience, okay? If I spent 10 years with you and it ends, it was a waste for me. It was a waste of my time no matter what I look for from that relationship. It says, if I wasted 6 months with you, it was a waste of my time no matter what I learned. That's just how we see it, because in those 6 months or 10 years, I never achieved my personal goal with whoever that person is / was, right? Which the outcome ideally is marriage, kids, happily forever, being loved by the person that you chose to start the relationship with, okay? In reality, hopefully, I or she took something useful from it, but if someone were to ask us I wasted X amount of time with so and so, right? So ideally, you do take something from a relationship, sure, but overall, it was a waste of time because whatever. So from my exes, I learned what I won't tolerate from new potential partners. My first ex taught me I wouldn't tolerate physical abuse. My next ex taught me I wouldn't tolerate cheating. My next ex taught me that I wouldn't tolerate cheating under the right circumstances, and beyond that, I gained zero new life skills. So after that third ex, everything was just the same mistakes over and over again, I would guess she's saying, which is the saying we say women have a type. And so it's like they'll date the same guy with a different face or a different name, basically, but it's still the same outcome, right? Um, it's just here. We women folk make so many excuses as to why we stay with men that aren't adding any real value to our lives. He doesn't provide for me, but I enjoy spending time with him, even if I have to pay for dates or food or whatever. He doesn't protect me, but find it sexy that he has the potential to protect me if I was his, but he won't commit. Again, interesting. He doesn't teach me anything I need to know to be self sufficient if this connection comes to an end, but I'm living in a space of faith that it won't end and I can just rely on him forever. Man, and so on and so forth. So those are some crazy excuses that women give for why they stay with a dude. And, um, you know, as a father figure, as somebody who cares about all women, most women, um, yeah, that would be such a terrible thing. I definitely have some advice to get you out of a situation like that because you are looking at red flags and then kind of fade them to pink and then making it acceptable, pink flagging it. So that regret comes from diving headfirst into the deep end and trying to create a Frankenstein style man for ourselves, then being massively disappointed when the anesthesia wears off and you see that he's alive but not fully functioning on the levels that you had hoped. That's a very good, whatever you call it, example. But yeah, they try to build something out of a guy that's not what it should be. And then the anesthesia being the honeymoon phase, when that wears off and you realize, no, he's still just Trayvon with some new, well taught tricks on how to appease your sadness, but he's not actually fully functioning. That's crazy. But where women get it effed up is, let's see here, accountability. Amen. If you stay with a man that cheats, you've given him the okay to cheat. Tell it, sister. If you stay with a man that beats you, you're giving him the okay to beat you. Amen. Now, as far as that is true, one of the rules in life is we don't blame women. No matter what happened, whether you allowed it or not to, it's still not your fault. It's still his fault, and he's the one that should be punished because it's his relationship. And if his relationship has abuse in it, it's because he allowed it in there. So, yes, we appreciate the accountability, ladies, but let's be more accountable on like who we choose rather than why we choose them. Because after you choose a man to lead you, now you're his responsibility. And if he's failing, that's on him. However, so he does it. And so, yeah, I do appreciate that. Life is hard in some women to the point where they take hyper accountability, but it just doesn't benefit women to take that kind of accountability because then those men never learn their lesson. And that lesson sometimes has to be taught by other men, most times. Okay, so, but kudos for the accountability. How he treats you is how you allow him to treat you. There is no prize for staying in the tolerance of what you really don't want to accept. And sex overly complicates it all. Any woman will tell you the best sex she's having. Any woman will tell you the best sex she's having is with her current partner, which is 100% a lie. I believe that. She's just attached to that man right now and can't see beyond him in the past or the future, which is a superpower of being a woman. So we accept that. Sex will really placate a woman, especially if she has low self-esteem, low self-confidence, or self-worth, and if she's taken on the identity of the man she's been seeing. Interesting. So Yeah, any dude that thinks he's the best sex you ever had has an ego issue. Um, really, fellas, it's not that good. Honestly, the thing about sex for men is such a crazy thing. Is the more you have it, the less you need it. I would say. Um, but with women, like, cause I think like a dude when he reaches orgasm, I don't think I can say that on YouTube, but when he finishes, like, I don't know. I found that the first time we ever did it, it incrementally decreases. And there's some like that jump off the charts every now and then, but overall, it's like a downhill. Like, it's not as exciting. Whereas I found that women with all the toys and the things that they can do are able to have increasingly better sex and orgasms throughout their lifespan. So what I've come to understand is sex in the long run isn't for men, it's for women. We need to have sex to prove that we're men in times and stuff, but the enjoyment of sex is for women. You know, we are just judged on the ability to offer pleasurable sex, not necessarily to enjoy sex, because 98% of the time sex happens, the man has an orgasm, but it's more like 40% of the time that the women do. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, as a rule in my book, sex is for women. We don't need to worry about it so much, man. We just to be good at it, okay? Um, I've watched very smart women dumb herself down, completely down, just to keep getting dirty dick from a guy that had nothing to offer her outside of sex. But that, but that's what she wanted, and and she tried to grow him into a man she could see him becoming. And when that didn't work, she labeled him a tragedy piece of shit who constantly hurt her and wouldn't treat her right. When the reality is, she wasn't treating herself right. That's interesting. She had no self respect at all. How can we as women ask a man to show us respect or love or compassion or concern or companionship or to be responsible for us when we have none of these attributes prior to whatever connection we share with the man? Now, that's an interesting point I will talk on. It's because we come into relationship to find what we don't have. Okay, it is absolutely my job as a man to find a broken woman and to hold all of her pieces. I can't grow her, but I can, to the best of my ability, keep all the chaos in containment. So when she does something crazy, hold that. When she does something considerate, hold that. When she does something selfish, hold it all together and be steady and stable. As they say, women are like a raging river, and men are just the riverbank to contain them, to keep them guided down to where they're headed to. Okay, so um, yes, your perception of that idea at the end there about not having self respect or worth and all that, a man can come into that situation and love a woman back to whole. That's exactly our role, especially the later in life we find women, the more traumas they have. You can't rid a woman for having traumas because women collect traumas by dealing with people and life, right? So you have to take her where she is, whatever her breaks are, you have to be there to softly and effectively like heal and nurture her. Because men are nurturers, we just don't get credit for it. And so, yes and no. Women can be broken to a point that they may seem unlovable, but they always deserve love, and there always can be a man that can give a woman good love, real pure love, if she's not, already got her eyes set on such a high trajectory. Um, a lot of women are going to forever just miss set on the best guy that could happen to them just because they believe they deserve something superficially, probably. And so, if you really want to find that dude that's going to love you back and put all your pieces together, he's probably somewhere in your friend zone, and he's probably a really good dude. And you're missing out because you think you know how to pick friends out of men. When the truth is men and women can't really be friends until after they've had sex and figured out that they're better off as friends. And so your friend zone dude is probably the dude you should have figured something out with. Either way, that's another episode. It says here, it's women's fault that men are labeled as not shit, when really it's the woman who doesn't care for herself. And I appreciate that accountability as well. However, we don't blame women. And that's not the same to say we believe all women. It's not that. I'm not a Me Too guy. I'm saying we don't blame women for the failures of men in this society, okay, and in relationships specifically. A lot of women's trauma comes from dealing with weaker men. That's just a fact of life, okay? So, again, I really appreciate the accountability in that, but it's not a woman's responsibility to handle that part. It is possibly her choosing, but not her fault. Because when a woman goes out and does something stupid or deals with a crappy dude, it's like a girl goes to a club. The pinnacle of a club experience for a woman is getting drunk carelessly and winding up wherever she wants to end up safely. That is how she wants to go out, get drunk, high, whatever, but make it back to where she's trying to get to safely. That is what they want to do, carefree. Whereas for a man going out in public, we don't ever really want to be carefree and lost and out of control and swept up. And no, so the reason why that happens is because they go do the thing they're supposed to do with the people they're supposed to trust, and somebody drops the ball, and then you end up in a dark alley or whatever else, and then now you have scars and traumas. And yes, that is because a lot of those dudes who do that to women weren't raised around real men or were raised around no men. But if real men get involved in boys' lives and we teach them how to treat women, then she can do that carelessly, carefree, and still no dude's gonna do anything. I've never stolen a chick out of the club and tried to take some from her that wasn't mine to take or anything like that because I was raised properly, responsible for everybody that I could see. I've, I've, I was with my best friend Brad one time, and Ben, we were at a party at his house, his apartment. Then we left outside, and we were hanging out in the parking lot for some reason of this apartment complex, and I hear some screaming. And I look over, and there's a chick in a window, banging on a window, trying to get out. And I go open the window and pull the chick out of the window. And apparently her boyfriend was in there trying to, take advantage of her. So I saved somebody from that one time, like it was probably a pretty freaking scary night for her and something that she'll maybe remember for the rest of her life. Fortunately, we were standing out there doing nothing for whatever reason. Probably we were drinking, so we were trying to sober up. But yeah, I saved somebody. I remember I was wearing, I always used to wear jogging pants and wrestling shorts, so because I was on the team. So I remember giving her my jogging pants. I don't think I ever got those back. Hmm. Yeah, we stayed out there till the cops came, and then they had a talk with that gentleman. But yeah, that almost went real bad for her. So no, it is not women's fault. If she had chosen a better man to go home with and live with, he wouldn't have tried to use his facility, which is brute strength, to take something from her. Because we don't use brute strength on women. That's for sissies, right? We use it for each other. That's why men don't talk crazy to men the way women talk to men, is because we don't use words to fight. If a dude says the wrong thing to another dude, there's that invisible line Andrew Tate talks about where violence appears. It just is out of the blue. It's like magic. Women don't respect that line, but men do. And bad men need to cross that line a little more often and receive the prize. A lot of people stand in the way of bad men getting what they need, which is an ass whooping or 2 or 6 and jail time. Okay, stop protecting weak men, ladies. Let us get a hold of them. Just point them out. And I think that's pretty much everything she wrote on that topic. But yeah, as far as, again, younger men, older men, younger women, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. The only real issue is, do you know how to treat a woman? Because whether she's 40 or 20, she still has the same childlike appearance or ideals of the world. And she may have less trauma, but she still has this belief of safety and protection that she needs to have around her. And it's men's responsibility to provide that, you know. So again, we're taking over the father's role in her life and offering her things that the dad offered her as she came up as a child. So it's all the same to us, 40 or 20 or 50 or 70, I don't know. Like, women are women, you know. I think that's what I got to say on that. So, yeah, continue to do better, continue to learn, continue to challenge your ideas of the truth as I do. Don't think you're the only person that knows anything in a room, and maybe you'll learn something, you know. I do welcome any form of response or rebuttal to help me to see a better version of the truth. But from this vantage point where I'm at, this is how I see it. And I know that I'm not perfect. So there's something that's clearly wrong. Do help me to find that.